Hey everybody, Johnny here from Harvey, Goodman, Realtor, and with me, as always, my partner here, Tim Judkins. And we're here today to talk about the turbulent waters of the Ohio Valley real estate market and as it exists at this very moment. So, Tim, thank you for joining me in the booth here today.
Oh, no problem. It's good to be here.
All right. So, what are you seeing from your seats as far as the market conditions and where do we go from here?
Well, I sit in several seats, so I see it from several different levels, from my personal business, from a corporate level, from what I hear from the other agents, and seems like it's going in a slower direction than it usually is at this time of year.
Yeah, and I just did one of these myself a couple weeks ago, and I was saying that my business was picking up, and I'm starting to see now a little bit of a slowdown, not so much maybe as other sections, as far as we were just talking prior to even going live. But there's no denying that there is I don't know if I want to call it the calm before the storm, as far as
This whole year felt like the calm before the storm.
this whole past 2 years, 3 years. I mean, from COVID to this and that, and what we were talking about, it's just everyone's in this boat together. And now, do you want to call this a recession or change the definition of it? Whatever.
It's the best thing we can do, I guess.
We're feeling the pinch. We're feeling the pinch. So, as far as where I sit in the market, I've always said that our market is somewhat immune to some of these negative effects as far as what the economy is doing. And mainly, I mean, I've always said that recession looks like California staring back at West Virginia. Not to talk very poor or anything else about our area, but we kind of round out some of the national averages at the bottom as far as median levels of income, housing prices, things of that nature. So when markets crash, it's sort of like we look upwards and say, come join us. We've been down here for a little while. So we're sheltered in that regard. But it also means as interest rates climb and, the median levels of income don't change. Right? I mean, right now it's what, like $400 on average per month that the average American has to spend to maintain their single lifestyle.
I saw a statistic with that, yeah.
How do you couple that with now buying when the interest rates are going up and up as far as you see them? So
yeah, I saw somebody was putting out a report saying that if you are a first-time home buyer, more than likely you would have to wait till this blows over. But at the same time, to your regard of what you were saying, we're kind of immune to a lot of these, market changes nationwide because we're kind of self-sustained in this area, is what you were saying before we got on this podcast.
Yeah, so I mean, it historically speaking, I mean, this is looking eerily reminiscent of 2008 as far as the recession. We don't have to go into the intricacies of how, the Fed raising the rates and how that helps to fight inflation. That's for another topic. But it does sort of, you said, first-time buyer. What does that even mean? So you're a government-backed loan, you're coming in with no down payment, those kind of things. And you were pre-qualified, let's just say you were shopping 6 months ago and your loan was at 3%. And now you still haven't found something. The right house hasn't popped up because people are maybe being more sheltered in place as far as recession. People aren't making large-scale, aggressive financial decisions. So we're not seeing as many
That's
listings.
a real thing right now.
We're not seeing as many listings. So therefore, if you're that buyer that hasn't found something because there hasn't been anything to buy, the interest rates have doubled in the last 6 months. So what you were able to afford 6 months ago, I don't want to say it's cut in half, but you really need to take it. If you were pre-qualified for $200,000 at 3%, you might be down to 175, 150.
Yes,
And the opposite thing is occurring as far as you would expect housing prices to sort of come down as interest rates go up. We're not seeing it.
No, the sellers, yes. So from the realtor side, the sellers still live in la la land. They still think this is the beginning of the pandemic. And so and what I've actually seen too is that the sellers who wanted to jump in during the pandemic phase are the ones who are still ridiculous right now. They're the ones that see everybody was selling way over market value. So at that point, they decided to use their stimulus money to invest in their house, renovate their home. And now they want to sell the house now when the market is changing such a dramatic way that we kind of need to scale back a little bit, at least price-wise. But I understand you spent the last year and a half getting to this point.
Sure.
And it seems to be those are my only sellers that seem to be like on the fence about trying to bring down their price at least.
Yeah, and it's hard as far as where I'm sitting because the last one I did here is every offer that I've written that at least has been accepted in the past couple of weeks has been escalated. So I'm seeing specifically not so much as a dip in housing as far as demand is concerned, maybe even value. but maybe, leveling off as far as, okay, we haven't seen astronomical, year-over-year equity as far as, okay, you bought a house 12 months ago and now it's worth, you bought it for 100,000, now it's worth 120,000. You gained 20% in equity in 1 year. And that has happened. I don't know that that's continuing to happen as this. I'm seeing it's either going to level off or maybe even slowly start to come back down. But it's more or less like, what do you do as a buyer? My advice is aggression. Everyone always talks about, man, I wish I could go back and buy Bitcoin. I wish I could go and know about mineral and oil and gas rates before they were a big thing. Well, if you're looking, we can check. Let's go to the averages here for the interest rates. They are still, as far as it's concerned, are they higher than what they were 6 months ago? Yeah, they are. Right now they're around 6% as far as 30-year fixed. This is the national average based off of a 700 credit score.
Can you bring down that credit score?
You can. We can try it to see.
Yeah, because if we're talking first-time home buyer, they might not be all the way at the sevens yet.
Let's do
600 to 600 up.
Let's go down then. See what 600 looks like. Not that. Well, we can always come back and test and measure. But even that, at 6%, the whole point that I want to drive home, is it a nuisance to your way of life as far as financing is concerned? Yeah, it is. But 6% is still nothing compared to what it was in the 1980s.
I mean, it was like 18% back then or something like that.
You needed 20% down just to get a home. We didn't have any first-time buyer options. Let's go back to the camera here. But it's it's one of those things that people say, man, I'm going to wait till the market comes back down, or I'm going to do this or that. From where I'm sitting, the market's being driven by lack of inventory because people aren't making aggressive decisions. As far as maybe they're moving, and who knows? COVID has made a wonderful mess out of every market. We're still not completely out of it. Now we're looking down, again, recession and all these other economical downturns. The whole point of this is that if you don't buy today, and I'm not saying this as a pressure kind of thing, but you might be looking backward 6 months from now saying, man, I wish I would have bought at 6%. Because the best time to buy is always 5 years ago. Yeah. Everyone says that. Even in the 80s, there was an opportunistic time. You just had to recognize it. So, my best advice for you as a buyer, if you're actively looking, is to, I don't want to say settle, but I wouldn't want to be on the back end of this. Because one thing I know for sure, we can speak speculatively about the market and whether it's going to go up or down. And we can make as many predictions and use as many metrics to measure that. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I can tell you that the Fed has announced that they're going to continue raising the rates because of inflation. That's how they fight inflation, to curb. So I don't know what the housing market's going to do price-wise. I know the interest rates are going back up.
Yeah, so we know for a fact that interest rates are still going to move in their direction. As in terms of the values, I mean, somebody's got to get in contact with these sellers and let them know what's happening. But also, I don't think anybody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows where this is going. And if we had to measure the climate, the political climate, the economic climate, and then you're saying the Fed's climate, today is the day. We can't wait for another 6 months, 3 months to buy because you don't know if it's going to get worse at this point.
Yeah, if you were buying, let's just say you're that situational buyer we just talked about. Maybe you've been in the market for the last 6 months and your interest rate was at 3 in January. Now it's at 6.
Yeah.
If you don't buy until December and it goes up to 9, it's always one of those things that your positional power is diminished by the interest rate. It's impacted. But one thing to really say too is that we talked about this briefly beforehand. One of the cheapest places to live in the entire world, not just the nation, not just our specific area,
the whole world,
in the entire world, is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, ranked as the most affordable city to buy a home in the world. You know how big the world is?
That's wild.
It's a big place. It's not. This is not just it's crazy. And what that means to us is that, like I said earlier, we round out the national bottom as far as standard data points, like median levels of income and everything that we talk about. So when the markets do have these, bad conditions as far as, okay, the interest rates have gone back up, it's still very affordable because our housing market hasn't necessarily caught up to, I've always said, like, when we talk about crashes, it would be a hard fall to go and be a new buyer, maybe in the San Francisco Bay Area, and buy a house at $750,000, and then within 1 year it's only worth $400,000. They see those swings that go up and down and crazy.
That they do.
That, and then you're stuck. You can't do anything because that's a life-changing amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Here, our market, you have to project backwards or look backwards 50 years or more to see maybe some significant decline within our market. It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Definitely.
So when markets crash, we fall off a step ladder, we twist an ankle, limp around for a little bit, and get back up and go back to life.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is. So I'm not really concerned about real estate markets crashing in our area. And from what I see, we're driven by industry. We're driven by things. I mean, look at Belmont County. Look at St. Clairsville. We're building a hospital here.
Mm-hmm.
We're still building. We're still growing here as far as.
Mm-hmm. There's a few exits down. They have a lot of construction on each exit right now, it seems.
I mean, so if the cracker plant ever comes through, as far as even the state of Ohio bringing Intel, as far as a corporation to host, we see all these beneficial things happening in our neck of the woods. The rest of the country might be on the way down. I think we're on the way up.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's.
I do want to say too that even for when the pandemic first started, and people kind of thought that the market was going to be weird and things like that, the locals need to know that if you don't want to buy, best believe the people who are scrambling away from these cities will.
Sure.
And they came.
Yeah. Well, how many
came in troves too?
How many people have you worked with that you've never even met?
Mm-hmm.
Like West Coast buyers that just say, "Hey,
show up,"
because it's so
cheap.
Affordable.
Exactly. When you're like that comparison you said. So I personally have a client in California. They were on your podcast and whatnot, and they're the same situation you said. $700,000 for their condo, and they come out here and they find a house for $250,000. It's a steal to them.
Yeah.
And they have land. They have a basement they've never had before. Like they have no issues moving to a place that's more affordable when they already work remote. So. I would highly suggest all the locals to jump on as many deals as possible because they will go regardless if you guys want them or not.
It's so hard when you live here your entire life and have really no comparison, or you don't do this as a daily basis. Like if you're for sale by owner or buying for sale by owner, if you don't really understand the market and the way that things move, there's the microeconomic view and the macroeconomic view. And to make really well-founded and educated decisions, you kind of need to know what's happening in both. It's more important at the micro level because that's where you're going to all things.
Exactly.
But I mean, if you are saying, man, I'm not going to make an offer at this house because it's too high and the interest rates are too high and this and that, if you're doing that based off of only the micro level, okay, you might be right. It's high as far as what the Ohio Valley has been doing, but it's still low to the macro level.
Exactly.
And when someone else comes in and they start buying and doing, that's your competition, you're going to set yourself up for constant failure.
Yeah.
Because you're not competing at the same level.
Loaded.
You're not competing at the same level as the other. And that's just, one example. What about buyers that need to buy out of pure necessity? Whether through loss of life, whether through divorce. What about relocation? People coming here because of oil and gas. If they have to have a place to live, negotiation isn't even taking place. And that's what I'm saying as far as offers that I've seen accepted. They've all been escalated to the point where they've either been at or above asking price, at least the ones that were accepted. The ones that were declined.
Yeah, I just had a closing today that was over asking price. So if you think that's not still happening, it definitely is. But it goes to what you're saying. They're not from here. So they thought it was a sweet deal from where they're coming from, and they're going to jump on it.
Sure.
I mean, it's a weird. So I've actually talked to older agents that's been in the industry longer than us, and they are constantly coming to me with, I can't believe that house hasn't sold yet. I can't believe that house is going for that price. So a lot of the micro that you were talking about literally doesn't make sense to people who have been doing this for so long also.
It's the Wild West of real estate. I've said it over and over again.
And it's getting wilder, it seems like.
It is. Yeah, it's... I can't believe some of the change. It seems like, talking about something 90 days ago, seems like an eternity ago. Because I'm so caught up in this whirlwind of problem solving and trying to, financial management and wealth management, saying, hey, real estate isn't just a place to live. It's also an investment. So dealing with investor clients and things of, this is the hardest part because, again, while our median levels of income don't necessarily change drastically as well, if the housing prices do, again, if you're stuck renting, this is why we do these podcasts, because we're in the business of, I always tell people I'm not in the business of sales. My job is not selling homes. That comes with what I do as far as, but we're consulting. Exactly. I want to talk to someone and say, what is your goal? What do you want to see? And here's how I would do it to me. And by the way, consulting's free. It doesn't cost anything. There's only a fee whenever we actually, conduct business and get to an actual closing table.
Exactly.
So if you're a first-time buyer, if you're thinking of buying and selling, that kind of stuff, a quick conversation just to establish what you want to do and whether it's even realistic given the current, the standards in the market. But like I said, it's just one of those things that the Wild West, it's so hard to make any accurate prediction because things are fluctuating
so fast.
So fast. I mean, interest rates alone fluctuate in the last 90 days, let alone a military invasion of Ukraine and all the markets acting with pure anxiety of where this is going to go.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, yeah, the time is now. It's been 5 years ago. That's when you should have bought real estate. That's not going to change anytime soon. We're kind of self-sustained. Like you said, we're kind of in our own little bubble here in Ohio Valley. So the market is completely different than when you were 6 years old, 7 years old. It is a whole different animal. And we're all trying to just coordinate with that. But also, I think there's still a large exodus from the major cities happening. So we still have an influx of out-of-towners who want to buy properties out here. So that is going to be your main competition, I think, more than anything.
Well, investors especially. And as far as if the housing market keeps going up and up, the next thing that follows is the rental market. Because it has to. I mean, think of it this way. If the housing market keeps going up and you're buying more for an investment property, that means, especially if you're financing that investment property, that means that your mortgage is going to keep following suit. And as interest rates go up, the mortgage payment for an investment property is going to be higher. Well, if the mortgage payment's higher, and why would I buy an investment property if the mortgage was $1,500 a month and then rent it out for $1,000 a month? I'd be losing $500 a month.
Exactly.
So you either have to meet or exceed, at least in that very crude model. Now, we're way oversimplifying how real estate investing is done, but you can at least understand it as a direct correlation. If you are now currently paying rent, and taxes are going up, and all these things are happening, don't be surprised if the rent continues to go up. But it's always hard when, like we're saying, the median levels of income stay the same.
Yeah, and I'd like to throw that out there too, that if you're worried about your rent growing and that it keeps going up, then maybe you should buy. Yeah. Because at least you're locked in for 30 years at that rate.
And you can always, if you don't like it, the best part about owning a property, if people, for whatever reason, it gets stuck in their mind that it's something of impermanence.
Yeah, or it's like a burden or something.
You can buy a house on Monday, get the keys, and turn around and put a sign in on Tuesday. People do it all the time.
Yeah, they do.
It's almost like trading vehicles. People do it. It's like I said. It's again, call Tim. All of our contact info is on our Facebook pages. Call any one of us. Call the brokerage. We'll gladly sit down if you just need a place to get started, whether buying, whether selling, whether you want to start a portfolio and investing. Again, it might not be the most opportunistic time as it was 3 months ago, but it's probably still a better time to buy than it will be 5 years from now.
Yeah. As far as I see it, it seems that they're consolidating the market as much as possible. We had a lot of businesses, LLCs, come in and buy properties during the pandemic, and that seems to be the goal. I mean, they don't want people, the vehicle thing right now, so I just feel that we're leading into that direction where your opportunity to actually own is becoming smaller and smaller by the year.
Yeah, people that look in these niche markets, so for example, I have someone that would come in and say, we want a house for $200,000 to $250,000 only in St. Clairsville. Okay, you and everybody else.
Good luck.
Yeah, you and 10 other people, probably even 100 other people. Problem is, out of that, let's just say 10 other people, make it simple. Out of those 10 people, how many of those houses pop up on a given month? 1, 2?
Yeah, you got a point.
So, and again, we're talking about housing prices. We're talking about the demand that's being generated when people aren't selling because of the economy. They don't want to move. They don't want to relocate. It's not an opportunistic time.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Is that if you're wondering why people aren't selling, because they don't know where they're going to go.
Yeah. And by the way, if you sell, you're buying into an inflated market already. So there's no free lunch. You can't just have, okay, I'm going to take my equity from this home and I'm going to go and buy a house at 2020 prices or 20. Yeah.
And if they were going to buy like that, they will take their equity out their current house, buy the next one. That way, they at least guarantee their next location. Otherwise, I don't see them selling and then buying and being stuck with the money and no place to go.
Yeah, it happens occasionally, but sparingly. And the ones that do have.
I try to let my clients know that beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get an idea of the market you want to go to first before we list this one, because last thing I want to be is the reason why you guys don't have a home to stay in.
Yep. And I think I did this. Let me share this one last time on here just to kind of go over. This was on the last podcast that I did by myself. Last week in our Ohio Valley, this is just the Ohio side, but there's 40 new listings. There's 42 sold. Every time I look at this sold has been higher than new listing, which means that we're entering into a deficit. We're slowly depleting all the inventory that's there. And
I track these numbers every Monday. I know exactly what you mean.
You know what happens when the supply goes down, demand goes up. So it's really hard to navigate and say, is it a good time to buy into a market when the interest rates are going up? And the answer is yes, because if you don't do it, someone else will. And it's just this trend. I don't see this trend stopping anytime soon. At least that's from what I see.
I mean, also, what I've been telling clients too is that even if you don't like the price point right now, just wait to refi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Write it out. Write it out for a year or two, and then go back to the bank and see what you can do. Because otherwise, obviously we want you to secure a home when you can secure a home, and we're letting it be known now that it's only going to get worse as time goes on, and we just don't see any prediction that it's going to shift into like a more of a consumer-based situation. It's not going to be a buyer's market anytime soon. It sounds like. In my entire career, which is now going close to 11 years, I think 2012 is when I got my license, so at the end of this year it'll be 11 years. I've not seen it, I've never referred to it as buyer's market. Not once. Yeah, it hasn't been a buyer's market since I jumped. Well,
I can't remember the last time. There was opportunistic moments for the buyers because of low interest rate, but it's always been...
still a seller's market. No, I haven't seen buyers yet.
Yeah, I can't refer to this market as I know it ever as being more advantageous to a buyer. That means when there's more sellers than there are buyers. Mm-hmm. Right now, there's more buyers than there are sellers. Yeah. And it's just, it is what it is.
You're ready to compete for the ones you want.
Not get ready. It is. It
is happening.
Yeah, if you're just now getting ready, you're losing to the people that were ready 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a cousin that stays out in Dayton, and so she came and visited me like a few weeks ago, and she saw the place, and she was like, "Man, I'm thinking about getting a different place." And so she started house shopping out in Dayton. She found a house she wanted, right, on Realtor.com. She talks, so she saves it, sends it to her husband. She goes to the bank the next day to get her pre-approval and stuff like that. When she's sitting with the bank to show them the house under contract, literally listed the day before she saw it. So it was on the market 2 days. It's already gone. So that's what you're facing when you guys are jumping in the market right now. Well, if you're not ready, it's already gone.
There's more sold than incoming, and until that changes. I mean, remember what happened when, look what happened right at the beginning of COVID. Everybody ran and bought toilet paper. It's a comparison. I'm using it as a crude reference, but we're like the department store that has no toilet paper. Yep. There's less housing on the market than there are buyers. And it's just, you can't...
you got a new listing coming, so you're still pulling about the stuff.
That's what I'm saying. As far as my seat is concerned, we were talking prior to this. I haven't seen really so much of a. It's probably going to be, a purge of real estate in a lot of ways because there's. I don't know.
You're onto something because the guys who own more than one property and it's not producing, it's going to come to the market.
Well, I'm even saying just even as a business standpoint, where there's a lot of agents that do sort of this as part time. In our area, as population dense as we are in some sections, you can find a real estate agent on every block. I mean, we're kind of saturated to that extent. A lot of this might be like a new frontier where the business is. We're already seeing starting to slow, right? As far as even the incoming listings and that kind of stuff. So it might be something that again. I'm here, like I said, I don't want anybody to look at my job or myself as in sales. I want people to call me and say, I have a question. That's what I want to answer. I want to solve problems.
You're a problem solver.
That's it. I want to be able to say, here's what I would do in that circumstance.
You're a solution specialist.
That's it. Pretty much. I want to see this entire career as that. Anyone that sees, hey, you're opening a door and cashing a paycheck, no, if that's how you feel,
you're really going to fall off the wayside.
Yeah, you really need to find someone else who's going to adamantly speak about, and tell you why. So I don't know. That's
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a shift. I want to see more people get into home ownership. Obviously, this should be the goal. Rentals is not going to work out for you in the long term, obviously, if they're going to keep raising those prices. We're going to see a few properties come to the market, like you said. I believe we're going to have a shedding of the investors, the ones they weren't able to get up in time, the ones that they can't raise the rent, they have bad tenants, issues with that. Those houses will hit the market. But other than that, you better grab what you can when you can.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Well, anything else you want to add before we sign off here?
No, I liked that last point you had. We are really problem solvers and consultants more at the end of the day, especially for buyers. We do a lot of the work on the front end without any pay. I would actually highly suggest you ask a realtor any questions you want, because that's where you're going to actually get the most valuable information versus anything on the internet. Anybody can type anything on the internet on these blogs and websites. They don't need to be licensed. They're just free to say what they want. You know, we have freedom of speech in certain aspects. So, I mean, with that being said, also I was going to say that I went to an NAR CE class not too long ago, and they were saying that as of 2022, we have had to this, I guess, August, we've had 2,400 new realtors licensed in the state.
In the state.
It's exploding, the amount of people who want to be realtors right now, but there's not enough business to retain all the realtors that are trying to jump in right now.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's nothing.
We're hiring, by the way, so don't
well,
that.
Well, from someone who's done continuing education and has taught for the state of Ohio and helped people with not necessarily their course requirements, but their continuing education. I'm not against, I wish everybody the best of luck. But you have to really, like I'm saying, for you as a buyer, it's so easy, like you said, if someone makes a blog post and they just throw out whatever they want to say. There's so much of that is done that it's, I want to say by design, as far as like being, old. Real estate's about selling the sizzle, not the steak.
You're on to something,
right? I mean, it really is. So if it's when I don't want to sell anything, maybe myself, but to say like, okay, I want to sell my knowledge to you. Here's, if someone comes to me and they're a VA buyer, veteran who's, through their service has earned this benefit, but if I know there's a loan that's better for them, my job is to say, look, I appreciate the service. I know that this is well-founded, well-earned, but did you know about this other program that's out here? Because not all government loans are equal.
You're in the business of helping people.
That's it. It's all it is. And it's, I would do it for free. I volunteer to make balloon animals.
You do it for free all the time.
I do it, scuba dive at the city of Wheeling.
Kids love those balloons,
yeah.
by the way. They want me to tell you that.
Well, thank you. But like I'm saying, more or less, I love when you come on here because it's like-minded as far as, because I know you're in the exact same scenario.
That's what I live on, problem solving.
Yeah, and it's it feeds my family, and I haven't worked a day since I came to this company at home because I love what I do.
Yeah, it's like I'm with the family all day. So
it is. It really is.
Yeah,
it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's all I have though.
All right. Well, I think we'll cut it here. So if anybody, like I said, if you have any questions, even from buying a house to selling to wanting to get started on how to get into a career, we are here to answer anything you want.
Yeah, and if anybody was interested in getting on the podcast to ask questions live, also feel free to reach out to Johnny K, and we'll get a scheduled date for that too.
Absolutely. All right, Tim. Well, thank you so much. We'll pick up maybe in a couple weeks, and thanks for watching.